Hey, good morning. How's everybody doing? This is Musings episode number 373.
Happy fall.
Yeah, it's officially fall, and the weather took a turn the day after. It was funny. It was from 90 degrees almost every day to 70s. Not been bad. Now we're getting the clouds and rain here in Michigan. And I was watching the news this morning a little bit, and they're talking about we'll have some peak leaves, I think, probably about 3 weeks. So,
yeah, they have those maps so you can know, like, the farther north you go, the sooner they appear. Actually, you might be getting some nice ones if you go really far north. At this point,
right now, they were saying pretty much most of the state is still kind of what we are here.
Okay.
Over the next couple weeks, it'll start to change. I think there's like if you look at the UP, it's like a stretch from Wisconsin up a little bit towards whatever that town is up there. Marquette was about the only place that had some decent colors starting to show, and they'll hit peak in like 2-3 years. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. So, but yeah, other than that, not been too bad. We had a long summer this year. Usually by this time September, we're like 55 degrees and cold.
Yeah, usually we'll get a period of chilly, and then in mid-October we get like one last week where it suddenly goes in the upper 70s, low 80s for a couple days, and then boom, then it's fully in. But we've been staying really warm late.
Yeah, no, not too bad at all. It's been kind of nice. I saw somebody like, well, I don't want to go. I want this warm weather. I'm like, I'm not complaining. It's just weird because it wasn't even just like normal warm weather. You still felt fall, but it was still 85 degrees.
Well, that's what you get when you have weather manipulation machines changing our atmosphere.
Yeah. So,
but that's just a conspiracy.
Everything's a conspiracy theory, Nothing's real. It's all
the only true facts out there nowadays are conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, it's because we're living in the Matrix.
We are.
None of this has been real for a long time. The reason they came out with the Matrix movie and 25 years ago was just so they could justify the fact that this ain't real.
Yep.
Everything's fake. We're all living in whose line is it anyways, where everything is made up and the points don't matter.
Right? Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. Well, let's get started here. So go ahead and knock out your thing.
All right. Well, what does matter is where you live. So let's talk a little bit about this. Teen Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. So we have a new listing. I'm posting our phone number there, our team line. This is our newest listing over in Clinton Township. It's priced at $350,000. It's fully remodeled throughout. So if you're looking in the Clinton Township, Michigan area, this house is gorgeous on the inside. It's like you walked into a Pottery Barn magazine. Most things have been updated in the last 5 years, roof included. Furnace and AC, I think, are 7 years old, if I recall correctly, so a little bit older. But everything is in great shape throughout on every level. So if this looks like something you'd like, it's 1,500 square feet, brick ranch, finished basement, 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, 2-car garage, all that fun stuff. So check it out. Give us a call. We'll set you up with a private showing. We're not expecting it to last long. We've got price to be very competitive. We expect a lot of showings and some upper price points coming in. So
where's it at?
Call. It's at if you're familiar with Clinton Township, it's not too far from 18 Mile and Garfield. It's about a half mile from 18 Mile and Garfield.
Okay.
So, yeah, so good stuff. Check it out. If that's not the house for you, give us a call. Anyways, we can help you find a different house or sell your current house.
There you go. And for me, since it's fall, it's also Monster cereal time. I got me a new Monster cereal bowl.
Yep, I saw all the boxes out at the store.
Now, Count Chocolate is my absolute favorite.
Mine too.
I'm not really big on the other ones in terms of flavor, but I think they're cool characters. I definitely don't like the taste of the new one that came out last year.
I just saw Carmella.
Yeah, it's like a caramel apple, and it was a very sweet, and just this flavor is just too much for me on that. Now the ones I do like, they don't have on here. This just came out for this year, but they don't have the Yummy Mummy or Fruit Brute. And I like both of those cereals. They just don't
Okay.
push those as much for some reason. So, but I think this is the core they're going with. We always had the three, and then now they added the female one there, the Carmelo. So, and I just thought
What is she supposed to be?
garbage.
Like a
She's a
female
ghoul.
Frankenstein?
No, she's a ghoul.
Ghoul?
Yeah, I would say ghoul's probably about the best thing, to say she is.
Cereal, it's been around forever. It looks like it's the round ones, but it's apple flavored. Apple crisp, apple bits, apple.
Yeah, there's the apple whatever. So
Is the Carmelo one kind of like that one?
I thought it was way sweeter.
Oh, okay.
But I don't eat the other one that much anyways either. So, but yeah, I tried it. I bought a box last year, and really was just kind of like, not for me on that. They do a what they call the Monster Mash remix. So you can get like all 4 cereals mixed in one box. They've done this the last few years.
Oh, that's just insanity.
Yeah, and I was like, since I really don't eat the others, I just get Frankenberry. I'm on my second box already. Since when I bought the cereals a pack, it was like I think $13 or whatever at Walmart, and it was online. And get the cereal bowl and you got a box of cereal. I was like, cool. They come in this big cool box. So I think I have it right here because I just unpacked it today. I've had it for a little bit. I was like, oh, I better pack it. So it's, giant box. So, and all I had was a box of cereal in the bowl in it. So it's a lot of packing to protect it. But
and with one box of cereal in there?
Yep, one box. So, but that's the way it goes there. So, morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Kevin.
So yeah, so I'll stick with my Count Chocula during the time here now. And some years, I gotta be honest, because I get it every year. It's like last year I wasn't as crazy about the cereal. This year it tastes better. So I think it's just how they make it every year, since they only do it once a year. But
yeah,
it's one of those things. Otherwise, I like my Fruity Pebbles, but my main cereal is always gonna be Frosted Flakes.
I don't really eat cereal anymore because I'm just too addicted to it. But like Fruity Pebbles, I love it. But I'll eat like a half of a box in one sitting.
Well, you have to, because that equals. Yeah, half a box is like one bowl anyway. So
right, yeah,
because they're so small. It's a little
re-pour.
Yeah, I usually eat a couple bowls, but I only do cereal about once a week, sometimes twice the most. But otherwise, I try to do eggs and that. So,
what's if you had to every day have cereal and you could only pick 5 cereals to live on for the rest of your life? What would be your Mount Rushmore top 5?
Well, cereals? First and foremost is Frosted Flakes. Second would be the Fruity Pebbles, followed by probably Count Chocula if we get it year round. And then it varies from there in terms of everything else. But I do like the mini wheats, frosted mini wheats.
Yeah, those are good. Wheats. It shows we're getting old that we like that now.
But I've liked them since I was a kid.
I like it's like, don't they have like one that's like cinnamon brown sugar frosted mini wheats?
Yeah, they got a few different ones of that.
That one is that's really good.
But since I had to have only 5, probably the 5th one, since I really wouldn't care either way on a lot of different cereals, I'd probably go with like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, just because I like the Cinnamon Toast flavor. That's the one there. I don't get that one very often at all. Yeah. Mainly, like I said, I get Fruity Pebbles, I get my Frosted Flakes, and then I get the Count.
Let's see. If I had to pick 5, I'd have to have Lucky Charms in there. See, part of the problem is current cereal versus what I grew up with. Like, for instance, Cocoa Puffs. I love Cocoa Puffs. But when I was a kid, Cocoa Puffs were actually white because there was so much frosted sugar on it. Now they're like this dark brown, and there's like no frosted sugar on it. So it doesn't taste as good. So that would probably be off the list. So let's see. I would do Lucky Charms. I would have to throw original Captain Crunch in there. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I think I'd have to throw in the frosted mini wheats. Those are really good. Yeah. And then I'd be torn between Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles. Yeah, I'd try to throw one of each of those in there.
I like the Fruity over the Cocoa. The Cocoa were fine, but I like the Fruity way better.
But the Cocoa, the milk in the bowl is so good afterwards. It's like chocolate milk. Oh, honeycombs is another one. That'd be in my top 10, honeycombs. Kevin's shouting out.
Yeah, yeah. And then
And
Kent's got corn pops. Corn pops were
corn
bad.
pops.
Yep.
Corn pops.
And that, but
I was never a corn pop, or what was the one with the frog? Sugar Smacks. I never got into those.
Sugar Smacks were fine. That was dig 'em. And then they had I liked Sugar Bear. It was Sugar what he did. And but they changed it, and of course got rid of the
Yeah.
sugar name and all that stuff. But
What I like
she's
about
the
the
golden.
honeycombs, those holes, they'll grab a little bit of milk. So when you bite them, you get like it's like really good. But I have to refill it constantly because I don't like my cereal get soggy, and honeycombs I feel like get soggy kind of fast. So I'll just pour in just enough to eat a little bit, and then pour more so it's nice and crunchy. But yeah, I like that. Frosted Flakes, I really like in spurts. I'll
Yeah.
love it like crazy.
See,
but
and I always
then-
like it because I like the crunchiness of it, but then I like it to actually get soggy a little bit. You know, it's that mix between when you're eating the
Yeah.
bowl is always fine. Now as a kid, I used to eat a lot of Rice Krispies, but I put a ton of sugar on it. So
Yes, if you guys that or even good old Cheerios, but the frosted Cheerios are amazing. Those are
Yeah.
like crack. So that too is a really good one. There's so many good ones, and I'm just the kind. If I get back on track with eating cereal, I'll have it all the time. I could eat it 2 or 3 meals a day easily.
Well, I like it in the morning. Problem with it now as I've gotten older is like I ate a couple bowls this morning. I was like, okay, that'd be fine to get me through. But once I get done with the show, I need to eat a little something with protein because there's so much bread and the grains. It's just
Right.
Yeah, it burns through so fast. So I don't. It's something I couldn't eat. Like as a kid, I could eat it and I was fine. But
Right.
nowadays, I eat it like it burns through me fast, and I'm like, I gotta have some protein to stick, or else I'm gonna feel hungry all day.
Yeah, it just goes straight to weight for me. It's
Yeah.
same with milk. Milk is so high content sugar. So
Mhm.
I used to go through a gallon of milk every 2 days and by myself. And
Yeah.
now I drink milk maybe a glass a year. I've cut it all out just because
I've never been a big milk drinker. I like it for my cereal. I like it to use when cooking.
Mhm.
So it's about the reason I buy milk is because I mix it in my cereal and that. So
Yeah.
I don't. You know,
Yeah, I used to have
you know.
all the time. Like I drink water now. That's how I drink milk. I just would always have it all throughout the day, but can't do it anymore. I just look at it and my body puts on 5 pounds. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, you got to watch that stuff because it's just something I don't do a lot of.
Our metabolism changes so much.
Oh yeah. So like for work especially, I buy these pre-made omelets from Eggland's. I get them at Costco because it's easy, and then I always have like some sausage with it. So in the morning, and then if I want to, I do it a lot more, and I probably should, but I'll get some English muffins and one omelet split between 2 English muffins with the sausage, and then that gets me through most of the day. So
yeah,
and then go from there. So I'm trying to do more of the protein stuff, and that's to make it a little bit better to get through and not get junk food. But speaking of junk food, the last thing is I had Kevin try these when they came up for the weekend. We went to see Megadeth in concert.
Oh, that's right.
Pringles has an everything bagel Pringles.
Oh,
and
wow.
They are really good. So I recommend those.
Nice.
But again, got to watch it. Tons of sodium. I try to watch the sodium too. I don't really salt my food, but everything has so much sodium and crap in it, things like that. So
I saw the video you posted from Megadeth. They sounded phenomenal from the video I saw. How was the concert?
It was good. All That Remains was the first opener. I really liked them.
I love their albums.
I got blown away by how good they are live. Mudvayne was all right. I'm not always being a big Mudvayne fan. They weren't bad to see live. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I do feel like their mix was off a little bit because it was hard to kind of hear the voice versus some of the music, but the bassist for them is just insanely crazy. He's fun to watch during the concert. He's all over the place, and his technique is just something you don't normally see. So he reminded me a little bit of the way he's running around a little bit like Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, but he plays his own. He's a slap bassist as the way to put it. But I liked it a lot. But yeah, Megadeth was great. They sounded fantastic. David Staine's looking good. He had that cancer about a few years back, and sounds great. He had throat cancer, so I mean that could have ended everything. And but no, we all seemed to really enjoy it. It was really good, and I hadn't been to Pine Knob in many years, and the place is still good, still fun.
Yeah, I see here. I want to give a shout out really quick. I see Mason Baker popped in saying good morning. Good morning, Mason. He messaged me last night
Mm-hmm.
At my Art of Scott page, he happened to stumble across me, and he shared a photo of a piece of art I had done way back when. It was a big canvas piece I did of like a banner piece of the artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and it had like grommets and stuff, and it was of my Boba Fett fighting the Rancor, and it was signed by me, and it was dated 2015, I believe. So he happened to stumble across me, and so he was just sent me a really nice message saying how much he appreciates my art. So thank you, Mason, for reaching out. That always, it always feels good when somebody remembers you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's always fun.
yeah. So that was a pleasant surprise getting that message.
Yeah, very cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So I was checking messages real quick.
yeah. That's
Um, so you were talking before we got on the air, some news in the entertainment world that was kind of interesting. I don't know if
uh,
Kevin knows about this yet, but he'll hear about
I
it now.
according to this was published an hour ago
Yep.
in Movie Web. Um,
I verified it through a couple sites, so it's actually happening. So
it's actually happening. So the Hellboy reboot had the trailer come out, and there was a lot of pushback on it. Um, due to the quality of how it looked. A lot of people were saying it looked like it was filmed on an iPhone. It looked low, and they even admit it was a lower production value than usual, I think, for a big movie like this. And so it got a lot of pushback and negative comments. Well, they announced that it's going to be on Amazon Prime. It looks like it's going to be released for video on demand.
Mhm.
They are skipping the theaters. So kind of an interesting turn. Shows the power of, I think, the trailers.
Yeah,
And with all due respect, I mean, if you're making a 2-hour movie, you should be able to find 3 minutes of amazing content to grab somebody's attention. If you
yeah,
can't find 3 minutes,
but if the quality itself is already
right?
not up to speed, it wouldn't matter what scene you show.
Correct.
You
And
know,
I think that's where they're getting hurt.
yeah. It's
And
just like the new Crow movie. Same thing. It's already available on video on demand. That came out in August, and that
yeah.
failed. I think it's why they probably pulled Hellboy because they'll see what the Crow did. Had the
Well,
same backlash.
and the people I know who saw The Crow did not like it, and they wanted to like it. They weren't like upset from the start. They went and they were just like, this was not good. So
Yeah.
they're missing the essence of these things, and we've talked about this before. Actually, an interview with George Lucas I was just watching. He was saying how when Star Wars came out, a lot of people and studios they will oversimplify their analysis of something as to why it's a success. I was like, oh, well, it had spaceships. So then the 80s had tons of spaceship movies come out that all sucked.
Yep.
And George Lucas said it's because it wasn't about the spaceships. There's a deeper story, and the spaceships are just part of it.
Well,
But they see the
the
spaceships and they just put out spaceships.
but the fans were also engaged in it and they became a
Right.
part of it without being
Right.
in the story themselves. We became,
Right.
Star Wars and a lot of other things that look at all these fandoms that have stuck around in these last mainly 50 years
Right.
is we're all actively engaged in it. It may not be because we're buying toys or cosplaying or anything else. It's because we watch them on a regular basis. We like
Right.
them because they were good stories we enjoyed and got
Right.
deeply involved in. It hit you right here.
But what makes a good story? There has to be a center to it that is truth, that calls to us, that we will feel a connection to. And when you put that kernel of truth in the center of your story, you can do all kinds of bells and whistles around it. But there's something about that story that we connect to. And when the studios just see it and just say, well, Hellboy is just red paint and horns and a guy with a big hand. Well, no, it's more than that. You know what I mean? Star Wars is more than a spaceship.
And I've talked about this before. This book here. If anybody's watching the show, if you want to understand what makes a good story, one of the things I recommend to read, and the studios need to get back to using this again, reading it, is the writer's journey. It's the structure for writers, and reading this will give you a good idea of how these stories are good. What makes them good? This came out I don't know how many years ago now, but I've read it a few times over the years. I'm actually thinking I probably need to get it again and read it. I've got it somewhere in my sock. Either get it out or I need to go see if they got a Kindle version of it and go from there. But I'll tell you this. This talks about it, and it used Star Wars as an example because Star Wars is uh, a prime example of good storytelling. The original 1977 Star Wars that we're talking about. There's been some missteps along the way, changes because they've gotten away from the basic structure stuff. But it's always about, if you look at a lot of films, it explains why a lot of films work that people like. You have basically Luke is the intro, then you have the wise wizard, they call it, and it's not always an actual wizard or a Jedi. And they get the call to adventure, and a lot of times the adventurer will, no, I don't want to do that. And then they basically are kind of, circumstance happens, they basically have to go. So
Yeah.
Luke was Aunt and Uncle are gone, he's gonna go. You read novels a lot of times, when you have an adventure novels, different stories like that, it's about the same thing happens there. I don't want to do this. Well, you got to is what it ends up happening, and then go from there. Even Harry Potter was like that. Harry Potter was, he didn't want none of that stuff. He's like, I just want to live. I don't want to be messing around with this Voldemort stuff. And of course, basically he was forced into it based on his circumstances, and that's the call to adventure. And then you have the wise wizard, and it can be multiple people and stuff like that. I also think that the rule of three we've come up with here and Odd Musings is another big thing. You look at all the major stories out there, and there's other characters, but there's always a core group.
Yeah, I agree. Now, here Kevin's saying Crooked Man is one of the best stories, and they have a good foundation. If they follow the story, yes, that's the question, and I believe they will because oh god, the creator is involved with this. What's the creator's name? I'm blanking. Kevin knows.
Mike Mignola.
Thank you. I believe he is involved with this, but you still have to provide, like, if you're going to go with a lower budget and you want to make it more horror, like, have more dark scenes so it doesn't look cheap. Where it's Hollywood is, the audience is very used to high production value. So you got to at least give the illusion of high production value.
Well, and it's not that hard to do in this day and age. The problem is for the trailer, it just looked, it really looked very amateurish.
I thought it was a fan film. I thought it was a joke at first because we see so many of those fan film trailers come out.
Yeah.
And like the casting of the actor. Now, Kevin is a hardcore Hellboy fan, so I'd be curious to see what he says. But when I saw that actor as Hellboy, it just looked like a cosplayer to me. He doesn't look, something about him he doesn't have the gravitas of Hellboy. It just looked like a cosplayer.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
Well, and that's the thing, is it did, so here, actually,
whereas Ron Perlman felt like Hellboy to me.
Well, he embodied, I think, a lot more of the character, and then Guillermo actually had a passion for it. So,
yeah.
Here's the trailer. So it's like a minute and something. So let's watch the trailer, and then because I don't think we ever really watched it here. So
yeah, I don't think we did. And like catch-up entertainment too. I was like, what's that?
In these hills, something haunted, evil. It smells like death.
How do you know that?
Dark things called dark things.
I heard tales about him all my life. Most just called him the Crooked Man.
We've got company.
All your friends, they all gonna die.
Yeah, it felt like it did feel like a fan film. It didn't look horrible, but it looks like
it looked like a really good fan film.
Yeah, and that's what it comes across.
Or a cheap Hollywood film.
And I think who they get to play Hellboy there. It's physical wise, I don't mind him. Jack Kesey. I think that look wise, he's fine. His voice doesn't match what I think what you
Yeah.
think of Hellboy, and maybe we are a little biased because of Ron Perlman. He has a good voice, but I thought Harbor did just fine with his.
I
voice.
thought Harbor did great as far as the feeling of who he was. I think as the studios just had to give it time for, like in a breakup, the next girlfriend, the rebound girlfriend, is never going to last because they're trying to fill the role of the previous that everyone was in love with.
Right.
And that's where it is there's a love affair with Ron Perlman from the fans. They love him. I think whatever they did would have failed no matter what. But if they stuck with him, I have a feeling this one would have been better had they done David Harbour and the production value of the other one with the Crooked Man story.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too. And I think also looking at the shots they used for the trailer, stuff like that, it looked like it was going to be very slow.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, like, you're okay, I'm gonna watch this thing, and you'll be sitting there like, oh, come on, speed up,
Yeah, like a detective, maybe.
Yeah. So,
but
we'll
see where it goes. I mean, and maybe it's really good. Like Kevin said, the original story that this is based on is a good story.
Yeah.
So, the question will be, how will they translate it for the screen?
Right.
And will they do a good job?
And that's the thing too. Looking at I'm like, it's all right. It's one of those things where if I felt like seeing a movie, I might have gone to see it in the theater. Of course, they've taken that option away from me now, and I wouldn't want to rent it just to rent it digitally.
Right.
But
I'll catch it when it's free on Amazon down the road.
Yeah, pretty much at this point. Yeah, one of the streaming places, I'll just watch it there. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think but they announced if it's going to straight to
video,
that it's more than direct to video and that stuff. It's at that point, it's not even just the backlash. They've had some screenings and people have. I mean, there's a review here from August 29th.
The screenings aren't doing well.
So I think it's what it's got to be. Is the screenings aren't going well. So there's something. The way they did it, this just not working.
Well, and I think you touched on something too. I think a big factor was the results of The Crow.
Yeah. And that's part of it too. And they do watch that stuff, and they're in the similar vein of stuff. But again, they're coming out so like The Crow. The first thing came out is everybody's like, they didn't care whether the story was good. They didn't care anything else. They looked and go, yeah, I don't like the way he looks. That was the very first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all people focus on. Now, Hellboy here, of course, people are like, well, it's not Ron Perlman. We know it's not Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman 20 years ago could do this. It's been, how many years now? Like,
what is he, like 78 or something?
Nah, he's not that old, but he's up there. He's in his late 60s, I think.
74.
74. Oh, he's even older than I thought. But still, at 74 years old, 20 years ago at 54, when the first one came out, it's one thing. Now it's like, no, it's a little too much. And you have to hand it off and go to somebody else. But I think it's just, I think it looks to me like it was just like, hey, we got the rights to do it, and hey, we got like $10 million, so let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's see. Yeah, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
it's Hollywood's constant. They're always trying to reboot these things, redo them, but you got to go with the original Marvel way. They hired somebody who understood the fans, understood the product because he was a fan, and they wanted to please the fans. So they made the phase one was all about making sure fans were happy. And for some reason, the modern day society is like, oh, that's just fan service. Yeah, it's called business.
Yeah.
If you're a fan service owner, you want to make Burger King fans happy by giving them good burgers.
I hear people talk about, oh, it's just fan service. It's like, yeah, that's what it needs to be. When someone says, oh, I wanted something different, then you don't want whatever that is. I mean,
right, then you didn't want franchises. But that McDonald's didn't serve any vegan stuff. Well, because it's not a vegan place. Go to a vegan place then.
Well, it's everybody. The things I get tired of hearing people complain about fan service and nepo babies. I'm like, give it up. I'm sorry, nepo babies act like this big Hollywood thing. No, it's everywhere in the world. I can't tell you how many times I've done business with somebody going, oh yeah, my father started this or my mother started this, and
it's called networking.
And it's the way it goes. You know,
sometimes it's family, sometimes it's a good friend.
And those complain. I was like, yeah, just because you didn't get something from a family doesn't mean other people aren't going to. And you complain about it. Well, then maybe you need to first. There's always a first for somebody. So
well, and then you got the people in Hollywood who come out now and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm an Nepo baby." It's like,
well, that's just because they're all whiny bitches. You know, you're tired of that crap. So
just even if you have a connection, no matter what it is, through a friend, family, a past coworker, it's about networking. Everyone wants to, I think what it is the current generation wants to live in a bubble. They don't want to socialize and interact. And so they're living lives where they don't know how to get anywhere through other people because there's no such thing as actual face-to-face networking for them.
Yeah. And that's part of the thing.
So they're trying to twist it to be, oh, you're privileged. It's like, no, I just talk to people.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Is I've been told I'm privileged at Comic Cons of whatever I've had because I'm white. And I'm like, no, I talk to people. I say hi to people. I get to know them a little bit. I don't get jobs. Trust me, I don't get none of that stuff. Nobody buys my stuff because I'm white or sitting in there. But I've been told that I'm at a con or whatever because I'm white. Like, no, nobody knows who I am. They don't give a crap about me.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that you got to talk to people and you want something to get ahead. People come to make Comic Cons and go, well, how do I get in the industry? You do exactly what I did. What's that? You write a book, you draw the book, you get someone else draw it for you. Well, I don't know anybody to draw. Find somebody, pay them. It doesn't matter. Even if it's, you know, some other kid, you know, if they're saying, well, I'll do it for $20 a page, pay them. Who cares? You know, if you really want to do this, you'll start somewhere and get started. And then you go to the cons, you buy a table, you set up, you talk to people about your stuff, you be passionate about it, believing in it, you go from there. You'll be the first. And then if you have kids and they want to do it too, there's your Nepo babies and let them go on and do the thing. But you've helped them with the hardest part is telling them exactly what I told you. So there's your Nepo baby thing. You're a Nepo baby if I told you to do.
The other thing too, if you're under 20 right now, just focus on knowing how to look people in the eye, talk to them face to face, and that's it. You will run the world in 20 years because they're not.
They need to start teaching these kids. They need to actually get out the old Dale Carnegie book. Say, read this book. It'll teach you everything you need to know. Talking about people. I had someone look at me and go, I know how to make friends. I was like, you might know how to make friends, but you need to learn how to deal with people. Read the book. You'll find things in there you're not doing that will work. Things I still use to this day.
But what's their definition of making a friend?
Well,
is making a like on Facebook.
Well, even this was somebody actually before all the social media said that to me. So it was, It's like, yeah, you know, you can make friends, but you know, you're a chick and you like to drink beer. It's not that hard. But I said, on the business side of it, and that's what this book's about. Yeah, it's called How to Make Friends and Influence People, but it's not about, you know, influencing people isn't controlling people. That's where people get a mistake on the worst. Influencing people is saying, this is what I believe in, this is my passion, and also working with them and getting them to work with you. It's very simple. One of the very simple things in there, I tell everybody is this. I use people's names as much as possible. Why? Because when you call somebody their name, they feel more comfortable with that. They're like, oh, you know my name. I even got the other day, one of the people at Meyer, she was coming up to check something on the checkout for me. And I said her name. And she goes, oh, you remember my name? I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I cheated. You have a name badge and I could see it. But I try to learn people's names. Because you learn people's names, you get to know them. You start building a conversation. You start building a relationship with people. And I even said this at shows for many years. You know, I'm not out there trying to just force everybody to buy something. I'm building relationships, and that's what you're building fandom and building people that want to come back and see you, as well as what products you come out with and what you've done next. Because they, you know, and not just getting them to support you, but wanting them wanting to support you and be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. You know, and I see people. I mean, we've seen. I'm going to drop his name. I don't think he'll be upset about this, but Terry Huddleston. He's got a daughter who's doing Comic Cons now. He didn't give it to her, but he said, "Well, here's what I do." He saved her some steps on the onset, but she still had to do the work, put the work out there, and man her table. She can't just say, "Well, here's my stuff. You sell it for me, Dad." No, she runs her own table. She runs her own business. She creates her own artwork.
Yeah. I mean, she got the benefit of gaining knowledge that he had. But let's be honest, Terry shares with all of us.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest people to share your knowledge with is your teenager. So she was smart enough to listen to him and take his advice. And
and I think initially she kind of pushed back a little bit. Like, oh, well, you sure, Dad? Or, you know, it's like, no, but this is what, you know, he runs his business the way he does. If you ask him, he'll tell you what he does. You know, as I've told people at Comic Cons, when anybody comes up and asks, I'll tell people, those that say, "Oh, I don't want to tell you this." It's like the person in Colorado Springs a few years ago was like, I was like, "Oh, where do you get your pins made? I've been looking to get some pins made." "Oh, I don't feel comfortable giving you that information."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." So in the back of my head, I told Kevin when we walked away, I said, "Okay, so she didn't do that artwork. She's buying pins from somewhere over in China and reselling them like it's hers."
Could be, yeah.
And she was sitting in Artist Alley.
That does happen.
You know, but I said, and that's my speculation on it, based on that, because anybody I've ever talked to said, "Oh, where do you get your pins made?" "Oh, well, I kind of go here." It's like, I'm looking to go somewhere, and if you got a heads up, let me know. Plus, most of the time, it's like, "Oh, well, I deal with these people here. Drop my name." And then sometimes they come back to, "Hey, thanks for sending some business. Here's a little flip for you too." It's not necessarily money, but it could be a discount, things like that.
I mean, our success at Comic Cons and other things and publishing, and it's not done so as an island, as a solo person. It's, we have friends in the industry. It's constantly talking. It's at shows, and we all get together afterwards and have dinner together and then share stories. And like, well, I use this printing company. Oh, how do you like them? And we use Ready. Terry Huddleston originally, I think, was the one that introduced us to Ready, I think.
Yeah.
And
and you and Kevin introduced me to them, and
right. Yeah,
and
it's a constant sharing. Tommy Costello, he was a huge source of information. Heck, all the the banner walls that everyone, like, some people despise, that was originally him.
Yeah, he was one of the early ones setting up high. I mean, there's a couple others that were around that same time, but he kind of originated a lot of that. And
I got it from Terry Huddleston, but Terry Huddleston was like, "I got it from Tommy."
Well, yeah, he told me, he said Tommy was like his like his godfather of comics. He taught him everything he needed to know by watching, learning, and paying attention. And same thing when Tommy was alive. Tommy would tell you what he did. Yeah, this is what I do. Here's what you do. Light poles, this. I mean, Sammy's still out there. Sammy's killing. If you look, she does a very similar setup because that's what works. I mean,
that's what works.
I do that too. In fact, Kevin and I've been talking. We talk about our backdrops and our setups and that for different shows based on what we're going to have. Or we're going to have a booth that we're sharing, or we're doing separate tables. Booth we're sharing is like, okay, we need to think about this or this. And okay, we're going to have a corner. We got to make sure that someone has next to us and there's not a like a thing down to kind of block. Blocking that's high if it's low, and that's the only thing. Then someone could have stuff up and facing into our booth. So you got to make sure you have that covered, because it's your booth. And someone goes, "Oh, how much is that?" "Well, I charge way more than they do, but that's not my art," or whatever it is. And I've run into that a lot. It's like last time I did Grand Rapids, it was like T-shirt guy was next to me, and but he had it sticking out into the aisle, and I had an interest. And he was like, "Well, how much is that shirt?" I said, "I sell those for $50." He looked at me and he goes, "That's a bunch of bull." And I was like, "It's not my stuff." You see, it's his booth over there that's way in the corner. I said, "They got it sticking out." So no. So I'd put like stuff right there going in that showed that my stuff faced here. And my stuff always faced into my booth, not out to others, because you're trying to steal, visual looks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's annoying when people do that. Always have your banners facing your table.
Well, it's like Cincinnati one year I had set up, and then there's a nice girl next to me with her mom, and I was helping her out. And after they set up, I changed all my side there, and I put up all my easels on the side there, covered it with all my prints, and they actually got upset. And they looked at me, "Why are you doing that? They can't see our artwork." I said, "Well, as you can see, this is my table here, and everything I have here is in my table. Facing in here. Your stuff on that side facing into my booth is not cool. Now, if I flipped around the other way, facing into your booth, would that be cool?" And they looked at me like for the first time and had never thought of it. They go, "Oh." Yeah. I mean, it's like a light bulb, and I'm like, "Oh."
It's just a selfish lack of respect. They're just thinking about themselves.
You see it a lot, and everybody goes, "Well, this is my table. I want everything all around seeing." No, you want everything. You want here. It's like people would do stuff to shift people on the sides, so they block the tables on the sides. I'm like, and nobody's standing right in front of the tables. Like, get them in the middle of your table.
If you want to pay for half of my booth, I will sell you advertising space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I have no problem telling people, and Mom will do this too when she's helping out. We're like, "No, you're in front of our table. Please move." "Well, I'm waiting over here, or I'm looking over here. I want to go in front of their table and wait." And you're blocking my space, and I paid a lot more to be here than you did. I've used that line a lot. Yeah. I mean, I paid $50 walking in the door. Great. I've paid $500 just for the table space.
Yeah. Yeah. And generally speaking, I'll give them a moment, and then I'll get annoyed. Then I'll politely ask them to move. Usually that does it. But every now and then you get this person who will be all self-entitled and be like, no, we're staying here. And it's like, okay, now I got to be an ass. I try to do the nice way, but
yeah, you start off nice and that stuff. I mean, when we were in Portland, we had the guy next to us. He's a known name, and you get people. And I was like, "Hey, can I get you to go on the other side there?" Because they were all waiting in front of my table to give them the sign. Can you guys go over there? He had a table and a half because the guy next to him didn't show up, and people were still clawing that little corner there.
yeah,
I'm like, and they're like, "Oh," a couple of like, "Huh?" What? I said, "You're blocking my table." And then I told him, I said, after I said, "I hope you don't mind me doing that." I said, "But I can't have people blocking the space." And he goes, no, you shouldn't. And he did actually told a couple people the same thing. And then we had a couple people that blocked his, and we kind of like, "Yeah, he needs to." I was like, "I'm sorry." I said, "I didn't even notice them. Let's get you guys over here." And and that's what it is. So I try to, when I set up on my corners, on tables, I try to set it up where people will come more center to look at stuff.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to block other people.
And I try to show the respect for people, even if they're not showing it for me.
Right.
So
very true.
Yeah. So what else we got?
What else? We just Umbrella Academy came out a little while back there, season 4. We started watching season 4. I didn't realize Jill didn't see season 3. So we went back and rewatched. I rewatched season 3 with her. That was her first time. So we just watched all of season 3. We're in, I think, episode 2 or 3 of. I think we're starting episode 3 of Umbrella Academy season 4.
Okay,
so we're in that right now. I enjoy it. It is what it is. I feel like season 3. I feel like the story is getting a little redundant because they keep doing the time jump and reset, and so it's like, okay, how many times are we gonna do this? It's on one hand, it's fun to see the different timelines and stuff, but it starts feeling redundant. Now, season 4, they shook it up a little bit, so we'll see where this goes. I think season 4 is the last.
Yes, this what just aired is the last season. So
yeah, so
and
it
has a hard end too.
Yeah, overall, I enjoy it. I have Michael Scott in my head saying, "That's what she said." But yeah, it's the characters I enjoy, and all that. So
no, I thought it was fine. It was.
Did you see season 4?
Yeah, I watched it already. Okay. So I'm glad they ended the way they did. It got to the point because season 3. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, it's all right. It's just getting there now.
It felt too long. Season 3 felt like it should have been like half the amount of episodes.
Yeah.
It was too much of Allison being upset and mad and angry. It was too much of Ben trying really hard to be a douchebag. It went too long.
Right.
Cut out like 3 episodes. It probably would have been perfect season. But individually, the characters, Klaus is probably my favorite. I love Klaus.
Yeah.
5 I really like a lot.
The actor that plays 5 though, I like him.
Yeah,
and 5 is great.
The character was really annoying at first, but now I like him more. He's one of my favorites in the end here.
Yeah, I really liked him in season 4. And season 4 was really kind of all. You'll see, it's all kind of all over the place as they're trying to come. And as everything is with Umbrella Academy, it's all about the end of the world.
Right. Now, I'll ask one question. Try to do it in a non-spoiler way. It was really confusing to me the first 3 seasons how they've dealt with Sir Reginald Hargraves. Yeah. They gave this flashback, I think it was in season 2, where it almost looked like the world was ending type of thing. And do we get clarity on who he is?
The one in season 4, we get clarity on who that one is.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so
they deal with that and is an integral part of the story overall. And they talk about this Hargrave versus their Hargrave.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So yeah.
Because at the end of season 3, Allison cut through his head, and it almost looked like a robot. I think instead, they keep implying he's an alien, but I felt like when they cut through his head, it looked like circuitry in there, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was. They dealt a little bit of stuff like that and who their original one was and everything else. The thing that got me though is I always thought Pogo would come back. I haven't read past much of the
Yeah.
comics, so I don't know how long Pogo
Well, I
was
think in
supposed to be
the
there. So
current timeline, Pogo wouldn't exist because
well,
the event where Hargraves takes him and trains him that doesn't
Mhm.
occur, I think.
Well, I think it's probably it too. I don't know. I just like the character in the first season.
Pogo was a
especially.
fun character. Yeah.
So
I liked him in
um,
season 3 too. He's doing tattoos and working. He's in a biker club.
Yeah.
And everyone's just acting like it's normal to have a chimp as
Yeah.
part of the gang and doing your tattoos for you. That's just a normal thing.
Yeah, but I do think with the story of the Umbrella Academy is like a lot of others that deal with anything time jumping and multiple dimensions and timelines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get lost in the story so much because you're looping around everywhere, and you really, I mean, if you're writing it, you got to almost plan out. It's just like Lost. Lost got completely lost.
Yeah.
In its own story because they started stuff and they weren't paying attention to it, and you needed now I would assume with the Umbrella Academy there was more of a definite ending in that. I think Kevin I may have read all the books. I know he liked the Umbrella Academy comics when they came out, and so it's if he wants to throw something he can at any time, but it's one of those things where I don't know if they got lost. It didn't feel too bad, but and it could be also the translation from comic to TV. You can get lost in that stuff like, okay, well, we got to add some stuff in because we want to add some time or story elements that for TV to make it flow a little better, and it can actually get them lost sometimes.
Right. Well, I think in the history of all this, I'm sure there's more, but to me, only 2 properties handle time properly without screwing up. Now, Marvel was doing it until Phase 4. Then they killed themselves. But Doctor Who does a great job. Somehow they've done 50 years of story without, but they've set strict rules with their own timeline saying once something becomes a fixed point, it cannot be changed.
Right.
I think that's a key part.
Well, that's been the key with Doctor Who. It's the fixed points in time that can't be changed, which are certain things like when people say, "Well, we should go ahead and kill Hitler." Nope, can't do it. It's a fixed point in time. Certain things have to happen for other things to continue to happen the way they are. And even Doctor Who really didn't go back and change stuff. The stuff he went back to, he became an integral part of it. So
yeah. So you got them, and then Star Trek, I feel, handles time travel properly in that they use it sparingly. Actually, when you go back and look, they actually have used it a lot over time, but they use it very sparingly, and it's like a one and done, and they don't get trapped where they're constantly going back over and over again to try to fix it. And so I think it works when they do it as well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it just becomes this constant loop, and the story starts feeling the same. Or you start not caring about characters because, well, we can kill them off and just bring them back.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Well, and that's what gets hard. I mean, you got to really be mindful of the time, like Doctor Who, or if you are going to be changing stuff, you got to go the Back to the Future way. Even that still had its rules, and and even then, no matter what he did, he still changed things differently, even though trying to put things back into place. But things were still different in the end. When you look at the third movie, it was all he's still, when he came back, it was like, okay, so I fixed everything from that I screwed up in the second movie pretty much, but coming back, he wanted to change stuff way back in terms of names. And then also the fact that he still had the truck and his parents were still, not the loser parents they were in the first movie.
Right.
So that made the big difference there.
Yeah, you got to create a definitive ending where your main character, if you're going back and forth trying to fix stuff, where they have to come to accept and be happy with whatever they're in, they have to finally say, you know what, we have to break this device, stop this time jumping, and just accept the reality we're in now, because we will never get it back 100% to where it was. And I thought they were doing that with Flash in season 2 or 3, I forget now, where it seemed like it, and then 10 minutes later, he's back to doing it. He's like, I'm done with time travel, can't do it anymore, and boom, he's back to doing it. It's like, nope, you guys didn't learn.
Well, and that's part of the problem. They got caught up in their own thing, and a lot of times, if you've got the ability to do time jumps and dimensional jumps, it can become an easy way in storytelling. And then we're back out of it. and you think you are, but and a lot of times like people are like, but you didn't. You just kind of went back and said, okay, I'll put the pin back, and then it didn't change anything.
Yeah.
It still made it screwy. So now I did watch the premiere for Agatha All Along. Did you watch that at all?
I did not.
Okay, wasn't bad.
Okay.
I thought the first episode they did it for all setup. Of course, it's been 4 years since the WandaVision, and the setup was interesting to see where the character was at this point and what was going on.
She forgot who she was, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So she had forgot who she was, and then it started to come back to her. She was having flashes of visuals. She was thinking something's going on, and then so you kind of get into that, and then by the second episode, they set up what the whole point is. She's wants to get her powers back. She had to put together a coven, so she went and found all these other witches. She has a teen boy with her that came to her also, and so now the second episode gets them basically getting together so they can go down the witches' road. They're calling it. So that's setting up what the story is. So not to compare it to The Acolyte, but already within 2 episodes, it's much better storytelling than The Acolyte was.
The problem, though, they're having is they're doing the same marketing crap as The Acolyte, where all the actors are talking about how gay they're going to be, all this stuff. And then because they're promoting it in that fashion, there's a pushback by some people. Yep. And then they're like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it, which is what the Acolyte crowd said. And then season 2 got canceled. And then they're like, oh, you didn't watch it. It's like, well, you told me not to.
Well, and that's the thing. It's
like, stop doing that marketing tactic.
Yeah.
Just let it be.
Well, and that's where I think they need to tell these people, like, hey, look, they're the only thing gay in the first 2 episodes is they don't even say it directly, but the teen boy has a boyfriend that worries about him. And that was literally like a 2-second blip. But other than that, I'm like going, okay, I mean, if you want to tell a gay story, it's fine. But if you say this is going to be the gayest thing ever, and it's going to offend and upset all these people, this group of people, well, guess what? Nobody's going to want, they're not going to watch it. And then when you complain, like Scott said, complain that you didn't watch, it's like, well, you just told me how crappy it was going to be because you don't care about story. I'm not, I don't need, no.
I'm just wondering how much of this are the actors rebelling against Disney? Because a lot of stories are coming out now of, like with the Pixar one, they were told make it less gay. They were very careful. They didn't want any gay undertones with the main character.
I keep wondering, with the main quote was really from Aubrey Plaza, and I keep wondering if she thought she was being funny, because she comes across that way in a lot of different interviews, like she's trying to be funny.
Right, but then like even the guys who did the X-Men cartoon, the X-Men 97, or whatever they're calling it, he said he got notices from Disney and hey, change this. We want to make sure it doesn't come across this way. So there's been multiple projects now where people have come out saying, yes, we got that same order. Yeah. So they are definitely doing some kind of change behind the scenes here to change.
Well, and this is not a kid show at all. You're going to have some language in this. We already have Catherine Hahn nude. They don't show full frontal nude, but they show her from behind. And in this part, in part of the first episode, so this is not a kids show. Right. But I think to come out and just say, well, this is the gayest thing ever. It's like, in a lot of ways, to say that, it's kind of like with the Pixar thing. Oh, it's the gayest Pixar ever. It was like, it was a part of the story. It wasn't that big a deal.
Right. But like they tried this with Buzz Lightyear, and it turned out there was a tiny thing that implied something, but they blew it up to be something big. And it wasn't at all. And I think they hurt their own sales by doing this. Yeah. Acolyte, they made sure to blow it up. And then you watch it, it's like, that wasn't it at all. There was this female coven of these Force witches, but they weren't in relationships in a traditional sense. Yeah. It's just the life they created wasn't through being who they were. It was through manipulation of the Force. So it's just, they keep, for some reason, these actors keep on the press tour, say this stuff, and then undermine their own project.
Yeah. Well, and I think the big thing is that some of these people just think, oh yeah, well, I think saying by it's the gayest project out, it's like there's an article here about that. It's like, yeah, they're calling it that because they're gonna have stuff in there, and it's like, okay, they didn't really deal with any different much sexuality throughout the Marvel series. You had a little bit, you had normal relationships in some ways, but a majority of it was about the story.
Right.
But and again, the first thing you hear about this is at the premiere, and the people are asking them because they know there's going to be something in there because it's part of the story. But but again, even by calling it the gayest, it's like I think it was them just talking out their ass a lot of ways, and no pun intended with that. But it's just like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. I mean, it's if you're gonna try to cater to catering to a queer audience, it's like, you know what? If it's a bad story, they're not going to be enjoying it. They're not going to watch it.
But look at the main MCU.
Yeah.
Let's see. Your big relationships was probably Star-Lord and Gamora, and Wanda and Vision.
You had Tony and Pepper Potts.
Right, and they
and they had one that was not really a relationship in Captain
Banner.
America. Actually, I would say Captain America. They had some.
Yeah.
They didn't flesh it out. So
right, yeah, they imply, they mention it briefly, and they move on. We don't need this the Marvel movies aren't about these intimate relationships behind the scenes. If you want to imply it or mention it, quickly mention it, move on. It's about being superheroes, the story, and that's it. But for some reason, they want to put this magnifying glass on those. I don't want to see it. If I'm taking my 8-year-old to see Captain America, I don't want a bedroom scene.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the same thing. It's like this. If you come to the premiere and say, "Is this the most heterosexual movie ever made?" It's like that wouldn't be. I'd be like,
"Yeah."
Oh, it's a heterosexual explosion. It's like,
I want it to be the most superhero movie. That's what I want.
Or this and what they should have said was, you guys are really going to like the way this progresses, the introductions of witches.
Yeah.
They should have dealt with just that particular. Everything else would have been fine. But like I said, the first 2 episodes, they weren't bad. They were decent.
Okay.
I enjoyed them. I know I texted you about it a little bit last week. So I would say, definitely check it out in terms of that. Yeah, there's going to be, this is everything. There's going to be gay characters and everything. There's going to be at different times trans characters and everything. As long as you're telling a good story and the story is about what the story should be, it's fine. If they're going to spend, like we've talked about with Supergirl, if I'm going to get 6 weeks of them only talking about
lecture.
The lesbian gay wedding, I'm like, I don't know any of my lesbian friends that are talking about it being a lesbian wedding shower or anything like that. They just say, I'm having a wedding shower. I'm having a wedding. I thought it was ridiculous. I really felt like it was a disservice to the LGBT community to constantly have to say it like that. Everybody knew what it was from the get-go. So,
well, and like most of these things, that character, Alex, I think was her name, she was a really awesome character in season 1. And then out of nowhere, she was suddenly gay in season 2. There was nothing in season 1 to even imply she was. Out of nowhere, she's gay, getting married. And then she was a horrible character. She was a weak character, always emotional. She was a badass in season 1.
And I didn't understand the change in the character because
it was like a 180.
They got rid of most of the real adventure in that show anyways. It was not, Supergirl would only appear in the last few minutes. To take care of what little bit you need to take care of, and that was it. She was a tough character. She was a character that, realistically,
I really liked
if they built it right, could have been spun off.
Yep.
They could have done their own version of a Shield show and had her spun, and she would have been great. She was awesome. And that, but they did to her in a lot of ways, different way they did it, but in a lot of ways they did with Buck Rogers by taking Wilma Deering and throwing in a skirt, and she's stuck on the bridge of the ship the whole time when she was a badass tough character.
Right. Exactly. So, oh well.
So I mean, if people would come listen to us here at Odd Musings, you realize we like
Hollywood.
Good, strong women characters. I don't care if they're gay, straight, or whatever, but strong, good characters. And if you quit screwing them up, more men would watch them and care.
Hollywood just paid each of us $1 million to sit on their development board for each of these projects. $1 million per movie. We will save you hundreds of millions of dollars.
We'd end up being Awesome 3000 from South Park going, Adam Sandler is the shark again. Oh, great story. Yeah, let's do that.
We'll just have a red stamp that says Kathleen Kennedy is wrong. Kathleen Kennedy is wrong.
And she's proven that time and time again.
But boy, is she going to keep trying.
I know. I give her credit for her tenacity. That's for sure. But
I'm really hoping. I'm really hoping the Skeleton Crew does well.
yeah. When's that coming out?
Oh yeah, and there was another cancellation too. I'll mention really quick once you
Yeah. Go ahead.
do.
It'll take me a minute.
The Time Bandits. That's another one.
Oh
They-
yeah.
They recreated. They took out all the little people, and then they're all like, "I don't understand what's going on. Why does no one want this?" It's like, now to be fair, it was on Apple TV. Does anyone really watch Apple TV?
Few people do. It looks like December 3rd is when Skeleton Crew comes out.
December 3rd. Okay.
Yeah. Poster
I
on
feel like it's
IMDb.
Goonies. It definitely has the Goonies feel, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like with the Time Bandits. I love the original movie, and it's hit or miss with some people, but I've always loved it. I grew up watching it, loved it, and I
Yeah.
know a couple people watched it, and they're like, "Yeah, it's not too bad." But when you take away the elements, like the thing that really worked with Time Bandits for me was as a kid watching it, it was a kid, and then
Yeah.
with the little people, they were all the same size, so it was like, and in a lot of ways, they were the Minions before Minions. Jumping through time, if you watch the
Yeah.
Minions movie, it was and they were great, and the actors that were that played the Time Bandits were fantastic actors. It
Mhm.
wasn't because they were little; it was because they were actually good. They could act, and they've been around for many years. A lot of them had done many different things before and after that, but they changed the whole thing with the Time Bandits. It was kind of like, okay, you wanted to introduce all these other elements, and like, but you took away the one element that worked. Just like with the Snow White that's coming out, they took away the element of the dwarves, and there's a lot of great dwarf actors out there that would have been just fine. It's not pandering, it's not making fun of these people, it's not stuff like that. It's a place where they do fit in with this stuff, but at the same time, it doesn't work if they're not good actors.
Well, if I remember correctly, too, that's Peter Dinklage's fault. Because when they were originally casting for it, I think they were casting little people, and then Dinklage came out complaining how stereotypical it is. Yeah, how awful to cast dwarves in the role of dwarves. What? Like,
Yeah.
What? Sorry, you're a real little person. We can't use you in the little person role.
Yeah. Well, and then he said what he said was literally no offense to anything, but I was sort of taken aback. They were very proud to cast a Latino actress. Still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He actually,
Yeah, but the little people actors spoke out against him, going, "Well, it's nice for you that you can get work that doesn't depend on your size, but we still need the work, so just be quiet."
Well, and that's the whole thing is it's they're not everybody's going to be able to get a job that fits their role, and if when it comes up and someone that would also fit the same role says, "No, I'm not doing that because I find it disrespectful."
We're sorry, Peter Mayhew. We can't hire you as a Wookiee because you're actually 7 feet tall. That would be offensive to tall people to hire a tall person to be a Wookiee.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's this whole idea, and it's like, and I did see that where a lot of people said we would have taken that job.
Oh
We
yeah,
would have done it, and I think they would have got some people that can act, can do a great job. Now it looks all CGI'd and everything else you're doing with people, and I'm like, it takes away.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is you look at some of the things in the last. I mean, Peter Dinklage is a good actor. He's done some films I've really enjoyed outside of the stuff he did with HBO. But he's a good actor, and he's fought hard to be able to take it serious. And I understand that, and I understand him saying, "Okay, that's not a role for me because of what I do." But there may be someone younger, especially, that could use that role to get noticed to do other things. And that's the whole thing on that is he basically cut his own nose just to spite himself and to spite everybody else. It's ridiculous on that. And I think it's a shame that he is so full of himself. And I've heard that about him since then, that he's kind of an ass.
Yeah, I've heard that about him, which, that's kind of made him who he is. But
yeah,
even like when people have characteristics that aren't the traditional norm that you see in society, being in roles in films like that also helps normalize. Also, it helps you get used to seeing people like that. So when you see them in real life, you're not like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with that person?" Why? No, you've learned, Well,
it's like Brad Williams, comedian, hilarious. And he talks about his dwarfism and growing up with it and things like that. And he puts it in a light that, of course, is humorous, but he explains it. I love the bit. You laugh at it, but he talks about, he goes, those little smaller funerals, those are for me. not for you, for me, because I'm short. And
Yeah.
it's like, makes sense, it's like, okay, oh geez, never thought of that, and it's like, not just kids, but also, people that are of shorter stature,
Right.
and, things like that. And it's like, okay, so I mean, he's been doing stuff and he's funny, but he deals with stuff, I think it's like, it's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And, it's just like somebody could be of anything, a different race, whatever. If you're doing something, with acting like that, it's good, and something you want to bring out, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh, can't have them, they're not the right whatever.
Yeah, it's somehow it just blows my mind how as a society we're whitewashing everything in the name of diversity. It's like somehow they're removing everything, every disability, every race, everything from everything we see in the name of not offending, but also in the name of diversity. We should be having more. Like Washington Redskins, that's the portrait of a real man. That's their symbol, and now it's labeled as racist, but it's not labeled as racist by the actual Native American communities over there.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and there's actually a group of Native Americans that wanted to come back because that was one of their chiefs, and they said
he's a real person.
It's also the Land O'Lakes. They took the Indian off the Land O'Lakes stuff for butter,
which was drawn by.
It was painted by a Native American from that area down there in Florida, and it's a gorgeous painting, and it honored them.
Aunt Jemima, real person.
Yeah, she promoted that for many years. Was one of the first millionaires of the African Americans here in the United States.
It's valuable to see her and learn her real history.
Yeah. But when you get rid of stuff, but even with the Snow White, they were talking about, they got Rachel Ziegler and she's Hispanic. I don't care that she's Hispanic. They still try to, you can see from the makeup and the stills, they try to make her as white as possible because Snow White had white skin.
Yeah. Her problem is she came out and spoke. Yeah. Once again, the studios need to be careful who they hire. They really do, because these people she's like, well, this isn't the 1940s. My Snow White doesn't need a man to rescue her. And my Snow White, it's like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So what you're doing is you're not making Snow White. No. There's no dwarves, no Prince Charming. There's no, just change the name.
Yeah. Call it something else, do something different, but they have to call it Snow White because Disney's trying to lock in another 95 years of their story in terms of copyright. So,
but you could still do a good job. You don't have to make a crappy one.
Well, I think the problem is they've been trying to figure out how they're going to fix this because it's been now 2 years and they filmed.
Yeah, it's been done. Yeah, they pushed it back a year because of her comments.
Yeah,
they were going to come out, but she got such backlash. They're like, oh, let's wait.
Yeah, so it doesn't go until next year. And that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, I really don't care about her either way. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head what I've seen her in, so don't really care. But if you're going to run your mouth about stuff, and that's part of the problem is it used to be you come out, you promoted the film, you told what the film's, and that was it. Nowadays they come out and they're trying to throw all their own personal agendas, all the personal stuff like that, and it's like, no, tell me what the story's gonna be about. What is the story? And if you can't tell me that, and all you want to talk about is your personal views on life or whatever, I'm not here for that. You go and set up your own podcasts or your own displays, stuff like that. But they need to reel them in. I definitely, if I was a studio head, I'd be very upset. So I'd be probably putting in their contracts like, here's your clause. You talk about the movie and the movie only when it comes to the movie, and that's it. And now, if you have something you want to say in particular, you need to run it by us.
What I wish they would actually make is, I'm so tired of the Disney version of these things. The Brothers Grimms are the original tellers of so many stories that Disney has taken and cuted it up and made it this nice thing. The Brothers Grimm stories are amazing. I wish someone would make a true Brothers Grimm universe true to those stories. That would be cool. Get someone like a Guillermo del Toro to direct, somebody with a vision like that who can make this alternate kind of pseudo reality world, but fantastical at the same time. I think you'd have gold.
Yeah, the Brothers Grimm stuff. I mean, they went and found the originals. They were traveling to get the original stories, and that's what they published way back, 1800s. But it's definitely.
But they're much darker. Their stories than the Disney versions.
The endings are different on a lot of them than what people know. There's things like that. They've done a little bit here and there in different things, but never to the full extent. Not telling a direct like, here's the story and this is how it was told. They use stuff like that. Even like Disney's, because it was on ABC, was Once or Once Upon whatever the Once Upon or whatever it was they had for a while there.
Well,
That they
yeah, Once Upon
a Time or whatever it was called. Whatever it was on Sunday nights.
what was
or
that
something.
called? I watched
I
it.
think- yeah.
Happily Ever After, Ever After. I
No,
don't
it was like
remember.
Once Upon. So.
Upon a Time.
Yeah, Once Upon a
series.
Time TV series. That's what it was.
There it
It
is.
was
Okay.
that one actually got a little darker because it dealt with a few different things. They actually made Peter Pan dark in that one.
Peter Pan was awesome in there.
Yeah.
He was my favorite.
And that was a different take on it, but they definitely got
and
a little
Rumpelstiltskin.
harder
I take that back. Rumpelstiltskin was my favorite. Peter Pan though was really good too.
Yeah, and they made Captain Hook actually more of the good guy.
Mhm.
And then but they didn't change the story as we knew it. It's just like, well, here's what happened what you didn't know. It's kind of like our Crimson Shadows. Hey, you know the original, but here's what happened in these points you don't know about.
Well, in that one too, it was the fairy tale world got pulled into the real world.
Right. And
So
that's what changed some of the stuff on that too.
Yeah. So it was how would they exist in our world, our society?
But they did enough where they showed you the fairy tale worlds.
Yeah, you have those flashbacks.
Which was really great. And they definitely showed that it was not all what everybody thought it was. And they went more with the Brother Grimm style than everything else. But even when you've seen different things done with it says Grimm's fairy tales, it's always still not Disneyfied, but they do scale back,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you got Snow White, but you have like Snow White and Rose Red. That was always something a lot of people don't know. And you saw that in Once Upon a Time was a little bit of the Rose Red stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then story wise, though, oh gosh, what is the comic series? I should know because I've read it. It's really good. I hate when I blank on stuff. It came out for many years, IDW or whatever. It came out the new one I need to read here. So
based on Brothers Grimm.
No, it was just fairy tales. It was based on the fairy tales. It was not the Zenoscope stuff. It was Vertigo that did it. Fables, yeah.
Oh, Fables, yes.
Fables by Bill Willingham. That's a good read. That came out before Once Upon a Time did. So it's a similar thing where the fairy tale people are still alive, but they're now living in the world has changed around them. Not that they were pulled into our world. But their stories were true, but they're still I recommend that. And that refers back to their harsher stories in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Excellent. Bill Willingham did that. Excellent written story. Artwork's fun. You can buy the trades. It was like 107 issues. They just did a recent run again with a different story. I've got it. I just haven't read it yet. I need to sit down and actually read through the whole thing. But definitely well worth it on that. And that was rough. I got tied into that one fairly early on. I was buying the trades as it came out. And then I bought the issues. And then I switched to the issues after trades because I couldn't wait anymore. I was like, I got to read this. And it's some really cool stories, dealing with the different characters in the modern world. So,
yeah. Nice.
Well, hey, we ran over.
There you go.
So, all right, we ran it and complained and bitched some more. So we're all set here today. So we will see you all next week. So take care. Bye.
Take care.